Hi, my name's Mark Walmer. I'm an attorney with 30 years experience in Pennsylvania's criminal justice system. My practice is focused on helping people remove old criminal convictions through the use of pardons and expungements. So the short answer to what are the historical challenges to the Pennsylvania criminal system is that, first of all, it's hard to find your own records. The records don't erase themselves. A person doesn't know whether the record can be cleared or not, and doesn't know how to do the legal processes to clear the record if it can be cleared. That's the short answer. The longer answer is that it's hard to find criminal records, even though they're out there on the UJS portal, and you can get them. The records themselves are filled with some legal language regarding the disposition, which means how did the case end? How was it settled? Did you plead guilty? Was it null prost, withdrawn, or dismissed, which means you weren't convicted? If there's multiple counts on a single docket, were they all dismissed or were some guilty pleas? So you've got to find the record, then you've got to read it, then you've got to know the expungement statute to see what can be cleared through an expungement, and anything that's a misdemeanor or a felony conviction is going to need to be pardoned by the governor before it can be expunged. The other historical problem with the criminal justice records is that they're never forgotten. People can look them up, employers use them against you, and it's going to be hard to find housing, education, and employment, no matter how old your record is, as long as it can be found. So the most recent reform to the Pennsylvania criminal system was called Clean Slate. Clean Slate was a bill that was passed that sought to remove old misdemeanor offenses that were over 10 years old, to make them hard to find, to remove them from the UJS public portal. Also, employers and landlords were not supposed to be able to find the records anymore. Clean Slate does not erase the record, it hides it. And so what Clean Slate does is it makes the record harder to find. Any conviction still needs a pardon to get rid of it, but Clean Slate makes you dig for it to find it, to file the pardon. Then when you file the expungement, it's actually gone. So the other problem is that people still need to find their record. Let's say 10 years went by, but you had an old pot possession charge. Well, is it still there? Did Clean Slate hide it? Is it hidden? Is it sealed? How do you know? You've got to go try to find it. If you find it, or if you don't find it, was that because it was sealed, and do you have to report it to your landlord or an employer? And what if you don't report it, but then the landlord or employer does a record and they find it? Well, now you lied about it because you thought Clean Slate sealed it, but it really didn't. So Clean Slate and the record sealing process can help people occasionally, because a record can be sealed or hidden in as little as 2 to 4 months. But meanwhile, that record needs a pardon and an expungement to really actually clear it. The short answer is no one knows. The file your own pardon process was supposed to begin a year or 2 ago. It hasn't been released yet. It would be good if people could theoretically file their own pardons. However, I can still see that there's a lot of challenges with that system because, first of all, you've got to find your record to know what's on it. If it's expungible, you don't need to file for a pardon. If it does need a pardon, you still need to write off to the clerk of courts to ask for specific records, and I don't know how you'll know what those records are. When you get those records, you need to answer the questions of how you were involved with the crime, what you've done with your life since then, and how the record is holding you back, and why you'll be a good candidate. The answers to those questions, if you're just filing your own, I don't think necessarily people will know the right flavor to put on their story. Are they going to explain too much? Are they going to explain too little? Are they going to deny that it ever happened? And how do they hit the high points of what they've done with their life in the past few years? My office has filed dozens or hundreds of pardon applications. I've reviewed tens of thousands of criminal complaints, and I help people write good explanations for why the crime occurred, what they've done with their life, and how they're a good candidate for a pardon. So That was a long answer to a short question, which is, when is self-filing going to let people file their own pardons? I don't know. Is it going to fix everything and make it easy? I don't think so. People are still going to need guided through the system, and that's what we'll be doing at Record Eraser. So the short answer to how Clean Slate benefits people is, I don't know. I think it's confusing. If you search for your record and you used to find it, but it's a small misdemeanor that's over 10 years old, and then you search for it and you can't find it, can you presume that Clean Slate sealed it? I don't know. The state police still keep a copy of the part of the record that was sealed. So for instance, if you have a pot possession charge from 11 years ago and it disappears, you still can't get a carry permit because the Pennsylvania State Police keep track of the fact that you had a drug conviction. That's not sealed. It's hidden. And if you don't find your record, do you disclose it to the landlord or the employer, or don't you? Because you can't find it. Is it really gone? No. Is it sealed? Maybe. So Clean Slate, this is part of what I do at Record Eraser. Research your record, find out what can be cleared and when through the use of pardons and expungements. If you're not sure if your record's been clean slated or not, we'll run your record, try to find it. We can also request a Pennsylvania State Police criminal history that will dig out anything that has been sealed. And I'll tell you right now, anything that was sealed is going to need a pardon followed by an expungement to completely wipe it out. The only thing anybody can do right now is know exactly what's on your record so that you know what can be cleared and when. People will get convictions, but they never get a copy of what they actually pled guilty to. Probation won't tell them, parole won't tell them. You have to know what you were convicted of so that you can expunge the expungible and plan for the pardon. It all begins with record research. What's on your record, what can be cleared and when, expunge the expungible right away, plan for the pardon even if it's not this year or next year. You need to know when is a reasonable goal that it's timely for you to file that pardon. Everything starts with going to recorderaser.net and filling out the form or giving us a phone call. When we get your first name, last name, date of birth, and contact information, we can research your record for free and tell you what can be cleared and when.